I'm a junior at Penn. I'm studying philosophy, and right now I'm working on a startup called Firefly, and what we do is download free screen sharing for customer support. And so what that means is if a customer is having a problem with a website, we allow a rep to connect to their screen and show them around the site visually instead of having to explain over the phone where to go. And this is different from traditional screen sharing in two ways. One is that it requires absolutely no downloads, so it's really, really fast and frictionless. And two is that the rep with traditional screen sharing can see your entire computer, but with Firefly, all they can see is what's on the web page itself, so it's a lot more of a private, comfortable experience both for the customer and the rep. My freshman year, I interviewed at a startup called OnSwipe, and they rejected me. And about a year later, the guy that interviewed me, who I later became friends with, wrote a post publicly apologizing for rejecting me. And so it's definitely been a process. And I think the key is, like, build skill and tell people about it. So, if you can show that you're producing cool stuff and release products and show that you're making progress, and also make a point of developing relationships and meeting new people who are also interested in doing what you're doing and who are better than you at what you're doing, that combination results in success. If you go to some guy who's running a company and you're like, hey, hire me, that's sort of like a turnoff. They get that all the time. But if you, 2 years before you really need to get a job, if you start reaching out to these people and forming connections with them and saying, hey, I just really love your advice. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to be as good as you are at what you do. Can you help me? In my experience, be really receptive and really want to help you. One thing that I've found is that for whatever reason, if there's someone that you really want to meet and they're running the same circles, sometimes it just sort of happens that you get connected with them, even when you're not really expecting it. I think the biggest thing is that so a lot of people they go to meetups and they do a lot of networking. I didn't really do that. What I prefer is to go and get coffee with someone one-on-one, or get on the phone with someone one-on-one. And I think the one-on-one relationships where you're sitting down and talking to someone for an hour or whatever are much, much more effective than going to a meetup and having kind of awkward 15-minute conversations with 100 different people. Meet up with someone new at least once a day, if I could do it. I was living in New York, and I did my best to do that. I didn't do it 7 days a week, but I met probably 3 or 4 new people every week and had coffee with them or had lunch with them or whatever. And so when you do that, you sort of start to develop a network of people who know you and respect you and that you respect, and good things start to happen from there. And the other thing that's been helpful for me is, I guess, blogging. I've written articles that people seem to like, and that really extends your reach a lot if you can produce content that people value or think is interesting. I've had a lot of projects that no one has liked or no one has used. I've had a lot of blog posts that no one has read. People just don't remember it. And so I think if you just sort of get over that and treat everything as kind of a learning experience where you're learning how to produce a good blog post or learning how to create a good product, you start worrying less about what other people think and more about did I make progress? Am I learning things? And that's a good way to get better without risking your self-esteem. You have to develop kind of a thick skin if you do this stuff a lot. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So I guess you just have to kind of decide that you're going to be doing this stuff for a while, finding jobs or meeting new people or putting yourself out there where you have the potential to get rejected, and you can either continue to avoid it and continue to be afraid of it, or you can just do it, and it just gets easier with time. So we actually went through a hiring process this summer where we hired interns. And so for me, the two things that I would look for is, it's basically can you demonstrate that you've done this before? And the other thing is drive. And I think a good predictor of drive and motivation is when they come to the interview, have they done their research? So can I ask you about our product, and can you tell me what you like about it, what you don't like about it? Can you tell me what you like about the website or what's wrong with it? Can you tell me about our competitors? So if you're really prepared for the interview, I know that you care about it and that you have at least some drive, which is also very important. So I always try to make myself available to anyone that genuinely wants advice, because people were always available to me when I was sort of coming up. And so either my email, which is dan@danshipper.com, or just on Twitter @danshipper.